Hello my people, this is Mr. Cozad. I am with you to do a quick video lesson on how to do the linear regressions that we talked about in class on your graphing calculator. So if you don't have a graphing calculator in front of you, just pause the video and get one now. I'm also going to be working out of our textbook. I'm going to do number 6 on page 96 with you, the drama club question. So if you want to pull that up or just look at the problem here on the screen, that is going to be totally fine. First step is to turn on your calculator, okay, and make sure that you don't have anything programmed in there. It might be a good idea to clear the memory. The quickest way to clear the memory is second plus 712. Second plus 712 will clear your calculator and make sure that you don't have anything else programmed in there, okay. So I'm going to actually detach my LCD screen here so you can see what I'm doing a little bit more clearly, okay, and then you can see my calculator here and see the keystrokes that I'm using. Okay, so the first step is to figure out the best way to input our data points. So we're going to go to Stat, and we're going to go over to, actually we don't need to go anywhere, it's option number 1, which is Edit. And you can input your X values for L1. So what we're going to do is the problem says specifically let X be the number of years since 2003. And what we'll do is look at our data points. We've got 2005, 2006, 2007, 2008, 2009, and then 2016 is the one that we're going to actually use to predict. We said X is the number of years since 2003, so our very first X value is actually going to be 2, because 2005 is 2 years since 2003. And then 2006 would be 3, 2007 would be 4, 2008 would be 5, 2009 would be 6, and we'll stop there. We don't need to do 2016 yet, because we'll actually use that to make a prediction. Alright, so now we go through and let's input the revenue. So we had 603. We had 666, oh that's a scary number. Then we did 643, 721. Oh, made a mistake there, I forgot to press enter. So let me delete that, yeah, clean that up there, press enter, there you go, Cozad. Alright, 721, enter, and then 771, enter. Now, a good rule of thumb is to make sure that your L1 and L2 values actually line up, that you should have the same number. If not, you're going to get an error message. So please make sure that those match up. Alright, now before we do anything else, there's a mode that needs to be turned on. So go to your mode button, and let's make sure that you have stat diagnostics turned on. Okay, so it's almost to the very bottom. It says stat diagnostics. It's probably off unless you've already turned it on. So let's just make sure we turn that on. Okay, so we turn stat diagnostics on right there. And then we'll quit out of that screen, so second quit. And now we're ready to actually look at the data points on our graph. Okay, so if you go to y equals, if you want to look at the data that you entered, you have to go up plot 1 and make sure plot 1 is highlighted. Now how do you highlight plot 1? You just simply put your cursor up over plot 1 and press enter. And if you drop your cursor back down to Y1, you should see plot 1 highlighted black there. Okay, now I could hit the graph button, which I will, and you very clearly won't see any of those points. Well, you shouldn't really be surprised by that, because the standard viewing window on our graph is -10 to +10 on both the X and Y axis. And the data points that we used, the X values were fine that we used, but the Y values were all the way up here in 6 and 700s. So we need to change our window. So go to the window button on the top row, and we're going to make some changes. I'm going to make Y minimum 0, and let's make Y maximum, we'll keep leaving Y maximum 10, that's going to be fine. Okay, so we can keep the scale at 1, 0 to 10, counting by ones is pretty reasonable. Y minimum, let's change that to 0. And Y maximum, let's go to, so I know my biggest number is 771 here, so let's just call it 800. And let's go by, I don't know, let's go by 50s. Let's scale the y-axis by 50s, because going 0 to 800 by 1s would take a little bit of time. Okay, so we'll scale it by 50s. Alright, so now when you hit your graph, what you should see there is the data points that we've plotted. And you can tell by looking at this data that it does look like there's some pretty strong correlation between the school year and the revenue, the ticket sales for the drama club. Okay, so it looks pretty good. But what we're going to actually do is we're going to create the line of best fit that helps us predict what will happen in the future based on the data that we've collected. So here's how we do that. Go back to your stat menu, go over to calculate, and we're going to do a linear regression, which is option 4. Press enter. Now this is the screen that you should see. If your screen looks different than this, your operating system is not up to date yet, and I'd be more than happy to help you update your operating system. It's super easy to do. Bring your calculator in and I'll do it. It takes about 2 minutes to get updated. Okay, so just to help you understand what this is telling you, this is saying our X values are in L1, which is true. Our Y values we put in L2, which is again is true. Frequency list, you won't have to do anything there for what we are doing in our class. But I do want you to store your regression equation in Y1. Okay, that way when you look at your graph, you'll actually see the equation of the line. So how do we access Y1? How do we put Y1 in there? Okay, well you come down here to vars, which is right between program and clear. It's vars is down here. Press vars. Go over 1 to Y vars. And then select the first option you see, function. And then select Y1. So then you can go down and we can calculate that. So press enter, and it's going to think for a minute, and it's going to spit out the linear regression. Now it gives us y equals ax plus b, so it's slope-intercept form. It gives us the slope, 39.1, and it gives us the y-intercept, 524.4. It also gives you these two other numbers, and the r-squared we won't deal with in our class, but the r value is called the coefficient of correlation. And basically the rules on the coefficient of correlation are it's between some number between -1 and +1. If the numbers are negative, you have negative correlation, which basically means as one value goes up, the other value goes down. And if it's +1, you've got positive correlation, which means as one value goes up, the other value also goes up. So in this case, we're actually really, really close to 1. This indicates a 0.935 or 0.936 coefficient of correlation is a signal to you that the data that you're analyzing has a really, really strong relationship. That means that it's very likely that they're related. The lower this number gets, the weaker the relationship would be. Okay, and as it gets closer to 0, 0 would imply there's no relationship. Okay. All right, so now that we've done all this, if we did it correctly, our regression equation should show up in y equals. Okay, so there it is, 39.1x plus 524.4. So now if you go to your graph, you should, in addition to the data points, see your regression equation. Okay, that's pretty great. So we're almost there. So the problem asks us to use this information to make a prediction for what the ticket sales would be in 2016. Well, if our x value is the number of years since 2003, 13 would be the x value I'm trying to see, because 2016 is 13 years after 2003. So the nice thing about storing the linear regression equation in your calculator is it will also populate a table of values for you. Okay? So when you go to your table defaults at 0, and then you can scroll down to where you see 13, and you see $1,032.70 is the predicted revenue that will happen in 2016 based on the data that we've already collected. So the answer to this would be $1,032.70. So that in a nutshell is how you can create a linear regression, input data and create the linear regression and graph it, and make a prediction for the future based on the data that's provided. Feel free to watch this again if you need to, or come and see me if you have more questions. But other than that, I am done. See y'all.